Let's be honest, the idea of owning a rental property sounds like the ultimate cheat code. You buy a place, a tenant moves in, and then every month you get that sweet passive income deposit while you're living your life. And yes, real estate can be one of the most reliable paths to building wealth, but then the reality hits. You realize you might need tens of thousands of dollars to start. You start looking at listings, and then the numbers feel like a foreign language. And then the thought of being a landlord, dealing with repairs, tenants, late rent, all of it, it's enough to make you close the tab and say maybe later. If that's you, I get it. I've been there, felt the same way when I first started, and now 5 years later, I own 23 rentals with 10K plus a month, cash flow, and a ton of equity. I remember staring at property listings, feeling totally paralyzed by the numbers and all the what ifs. But after buying properties and learning the hard lessons, and as well helping other people do the same thing, I realized something. Buying your first rental property isn't complicated. It's a repeatable process. So in this video, I'm giving you a simple 12-step blueprint that takes you from where do I even start to I know exactly what to do next. This isn't a theory. This is a real world playbook that I use every day for myself and as well my clients that I help buy properties. So grab something to take notes with, because by the end of this, you'll have a clear plan that you can follow step by step. You can't build a real estate portfolio on a shaky foundation. If you skip the foundation, everything after this becomes stressful. The mortgage approval, the offers, the inspection, the cash flow, the tenant, all of it. Get this part right and the rest gets way easier. First question everyone asks is, how much money do I actually need? For standard conventional investment loans, lenders commonly want 20% down, sometimes 25% depending on the market and the situation. So on a $300,000 rental, 20% down looks like $60,000. 25% down, $75,000. And for a 2 to 4 unit property, many lenders basically assume 25%. There are ways to buy rentals without using your own money, but that video will be for another day because there's a ton of complexity behind it and not for a beginner. Now, before you click away after hearing the down payment and yeah, I'm out, here's the key. There are other strategies that can get you in the game faster, especially if you're willing to live in the property for a year. The house hack strategy. FHA, VA, conventional. If you buy a duplex, triplex, or fourplex and live in one unit, you may qualify for an FHA loan or a conventional loan with 5% down. I recommend starting with a fourplex because lenders are weird when it comes to house hacking into more units if you start off with a single family. So what you'll want to do is actually start from a fourplex and work your way down. I call this the 4-3-2-1 method. And eventually you're living in one unit in one single family home by yourself and everything else is covering the mortgage. You can get loans like an FHA loan, for example, with 3.5% down and a 580 plus credit score, or 10% down with a 500 to 579 score. But there's some lenders that will even allow you to get 5% down. That's the house hack. You live in one unit and then the other units help cover the mortgage. For eligible veterans, the VA loan is even better, potentially 0 down for an owner-occupied multi-unit. This is how a lot of investors get started when they don't have $60,000 sitting around. The missing piece that most people forget, reserves. Even if you have the down payment, lenders often want to see the reserves, money left over after closing. A common guideline is 6 months of total housing payments saved. The number is less when you're planning to live in it and will vary per lender as well, so keep that in mind. That's not just to make the bank happy, it's for your own sanity when something breaks. Because in real estate, something will always break, trust me. Think of your credit score like your financial report card. If you're asking to borrow hundreds of thousands of dollars, lenders don't just want to hear you're responsible, they want proof. General target 700 plus credit score is solid for conventional. 740 plus is where rates start getting really good. 760 plus is top tier. And why does this matter? Because your interest rate affects your mortgage payment, which affects cash flow, which affects whether the deal works or not. That's why a lot of people wish when the rates were super low in the 3s and 4s, but they were too scared to do it because people were saying the market is going to crash, market's going to crash. Nope, it did the opposite thing. A higher score can literally be be the difference between this rental makes me $300 a month and this rental loses $75 a month. If your credit isn't great yet, I wouldn't hire a company to fix it, as it is easy to improve on your own. I went from low 500s to 700s within 2 years. Start with the basics. Pay everything on time, no exceptions. Pay down credit cards. Utilization matters. Dispute errors. Avoid opening a bunch of new debt right before buying. And if your credit history is thin, one option is becoming an authorized user on a family member's well-managed account, but only if they're responsible, because their habits now affect you. Mortgage underwriting is basically the bank saying, prove to us you are who you say you are and that you can pay us back. Start a folder right now, digital or physical. You'll need the last 2 years of tax returns, 2 to 6 months bank statements, pay stubs plus W-2s, list of debts and assets. For W-2, it's typically easier. They'll be looking at gross income. However, if you're self-employed, they'll be looking at your net income. So don't make the same mistake I did by writing off too much, or either not writing off enough and having a large tax bill and it hurts your down payment capability. Self-employed people, this part matters a lot because lenders typically average your last 2 years of income. So if you made $50,000 one year and $100,000 year two, they may qualify you around $75,000. So deductions reduce your income on paper. So if you're planning to buy soon, be strategic, because lower taxes can accidentally mean lower buying power. Do not start seriously house hunting without a pre-approval. Pre-approval is stronger than pre-qualification. Pre-qualification is basically a guess. You get these in the mail all the time. Pre-approval is the lender actually reviewing your documents and saying, yes, you can buy up to X amount. And shop around. Big bank, local credit union, mortgage broker. Rates and programs vary a lot. If you guys need anybody, drop it in the comments. I'll be more than happy to share with you my mortgage broker that I use for all my deals. He gets me the best rates and the best terms. In a competitive market, making an offer without a pre-approval is like trying to win a race without shoes. Sometimes you might not even be able to get into the home because most agents will want to see a pre-approval. Now the hunt begins. This is where you make your money. The goal isn't to buy a property, it's to buy a property where the numbers make sense. Yes, you can invest in your backyard. However, there are certain markets like New York, California, where the cash flow really doesn't make sense and it will become more of an appreciation play, or just simply keeping your housing expenses low by house hacking. But your success depends heavily on market fundamentals. Look for job growth, population growth, diverse economy, good schools, plus amenities, depending on tenant type, of course. And one important number, vacancy rate. If vacancy is high, it can destroy cash flow. And you can tell that by how long rentals stay on the market in that area that you're searching, the days on market we call it. A general target is under 5%. Use tools like Zillow, Redfin for listing and comps. I also use Rentometer for rent estimates, and even calling property managers to ask, what would this rent for? Beginner-friendly property types, single-family homes, 2 to 4 unit, small multifamily. Be careful with condos and high HOA, and sometimes a lot of people aren't aware, but condos have rental restrictions as well. So you really want to watch out for that. They can also murder cash flow because of the HOA. High crime areas, cheap doesn't mean profitable. And on paper, it may look like you'll cash flow a lot at some of these areas, but they are a headache. Trust me, you don't want to mess around with it and find out the hard way. There is a sweet spot for beginners, solid working class. I like to buy in B, C neighborhoods, not A classes. A is too much and doesn't really cash flow. Not luxury, but not a war zone. This is the most important step because 95% of listings do not work as rentals at the asking price. Your job is to filter quickly. The cash flow formula. Rent minus expenses. Expenses include mortgage, principal, interest, right? Taxes, insurance. So PITI pretty much, P-I-T-I. Vacancy, repairs, CapEx, big replacements like roof, HVAC, water heater, foundation repairs, property management. Even if self-managed, still budgets in case you ever need it. A clean starter goal, I started with $200 a month. Some people may want more. That's what you feel comfortable with, but $200 a month cash flow, meaning after, income minus expenses. Cash on cash return, how you determine that is annual cash flow divided by total cash invested. So down payment, closing costs, renovation, anything, your all-in number. A strong target, 8 to 12% plus, depending on market. Let's say purchase price $300,000, down payment $60,000, closing costs $9,000, renovation $10,000, total cash invested about $79,000. Rent $2,500 a month. Now the expenses: mortgage $1,600, taxes $300, insurance $100, vacancy 5% $125, repairs 5% $125, capex 5% $125, management 8 to 10% $200 to $220. Total expenses about $2,575. That's negative $75 a month. Bad deal. And this is the part that most beginners completely skip, because they'll buy it anyways and hope that appreciation saves them. But you need to account for this, trust me. But appreciation is just a bonus. Cash flow is the foundation. Quick pause, guys. If this step-by-step breakdown is clicking for you, hit that like button, and as well consider subscribing. It does a ton with the YouTube algorithm. I've got a goal of trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by February, so it would be greatly appreciated. And for you doing that, here's a cute picture of my pup Angel sleeping at the worst possible spot. Best beginner deals are often ugly, not broken. Look for old paint, bad flooring, outdated fixtures, dated kitchens and baths. These scare off regular buyers, but are relatively cheap upgrades, and it will qualify for a regular loan, FHA or conventional. You want to avoid foundation problems, heavy structural work or roof replacement, major mold disasters or moisture problems, full HVAC or electrical system replacements, including the wires, unless you really know what you're doing. Cosmetic upgrades create instant equity and increase in rent potential. My first rental was a cosmetic upgrade rental, duplex. Budget extra 10-20% for surprises, because surprises will happen in real estate. Your offer is not based on the seller's asking price. It's based on the price where the deal works for you. You'll lose offers, which is normal, and you may get people that get offended, but don't pay attention to it, because if you're submitting offers and it gets accepted a lot, then that means you're overpaying in most cases. You'll get countered. You'll walk away. That's the game. The investor willing to walk away holds the most power. You will eventually run across people that will accept your offer. You just have to sort through them. Offer accepted? Great. Now we get through the finish line without stepping on any landmines. Do not skip this. You have an inspection period for a reason. Inspect everything. Roof, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, foundation. Bring specialists for big ticket items if needed. And use that information to renegotiate price, request credits, or walk away if it's just too risky. Walking away from a bad deal is a win. The most profitable deals are the ones that you walk away from that others went crazy for. A desperate buyer will lose money in the long run. Escrow officer is the neutral third party handling money and paperwork. Your lender will order an appraisal, then you have closing costs, typically 2 to 5% of purchase price, and make sure the buyer's agent commission is covered by the seller. That is common on a $300,000 property, $6,000 to $15,000, not including commissions. Read the settlement statement carefully. This is where beginners get surprised if they didn't budget correctly. And try to negotiate some junk fees. There are junk fees, admin fees, processing fees, underwriting fees, and you can negotiate this stuff. Once you get the keys, the clock starts. Vacant property equals money bleeding. Focus on high ROI, paint, flooring. LVP is popular for durability. Do not go cheap on this, otherwise you will spend more later just ripping out that flooring. I know this from hands-on experience because when I first started, I went cheap material and it did not last one tenant turnover. Light fixtures, clean modern kitchen bath touches. Remember, this is a rental, durability over fancy. If managed well, a cosmetic rehab can be 2 to 4 weeks. Professional photos are non-negotiable. I use them for rentals and all my flips that I sell. I use TurboTenant, which will post it onto a bunch of websites mentioned. List everywhere like Zillow, Apartments, Craigslist, Redfin, Trulia, Realtor.com, Facebook Marketplace is another really popular spot where I get renters from. More exposure equals faster tenant. Screen tenants like your life depends on it because your profit does. And just because they're your friend does not mean they passed the stage. Okay, you need to screen your friends as well. Minimum screening, application, credit background check, eviction history, income verification, often 3 times the rent, past landlord references. Use a state-specific lease, not a random free template. I also ask for 2 to 3 months of bank statements, just the first page showing the starting and ending balance, so this way I know they're responsible with their money and have some reserves and a room for buffer. Now you own an asset. Here's how wealth starts compounding. Real estate pays you in 3 ways: monthly cash flow, appreciation over time, loan pay down, the tenant paying down your mortgage, and the bonus of them all, tax advantages. Then you build equity, and eventually you can recycle it. Refinance, HELOC, or sell and 1031, depending on the strategy. That's how one property turns into 2, then 4, then a whole portfolio. Once you have your first running smoothly, everything gets easier because now you're not guessing. You're repeating a system that you've proven worked. I would give it a year at least so you can take care of any issues that pop up within that year with the current rental and enough time for it to season. Now, I want to hear from you. What's your biggest holdup right now? Is it the down payment, credit, finding a deal, fear of tenants, not knowing the numbers? Drop it in the comments below and tell me which step you're on right now. Step 0, step 3, step 5, wherever you're at. Because once you know your step, you know your next move. And I reply to every single comment.